Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at the Secrets and Shadows pack on Pinball Fx from Zen Studios. The first table in the pack is Curse of the Mummy. Now this table basically centers around exploring around Egypt and essentially dealing with the curse of a mummy, which is exactly what the name implies. It's a great looking table. I love the ancient Egypt aesthetic and the magical elements to it, with the mummy coming back. Visually, it's an absolutely stunning table. Now, as far as overall gameplay, I found the table to really be a great balance of difficult shots versus the dynamic nature of the table versus just the overall experience. I thought this is one of the better tables in terms of that balance. Most tables lean more heavily in one way or the other, but this one, like I said, it absolutely nailed the balance. And for overall experience out of the pack, this one is definitely the best of the tables. Now, as far as the pack is concerned, it costs about $15 US, and if you are early into your collection and play on Xbox, there's a pack that gets you this, as well as Universal Classics, as well as I believe one or two of the Williams packs, all for $15. And I misread it. I thought the Universal Classics pack that came with it was the Universal Monsters pack, because that was the only Universal one that I had left to get. And so I got it. And this pack was the only one new for me out of that entire package. So it ended up being the normal cost of getting just this pack by itself. So if you are on Xbox, and again, you are newer to your collection, this pack is definitely worth getting for that reason alone, just for the number of packs you get and how cheap it is. But that being said, at breaking down $5 a table, this table itself is definitely worth it. But of course, stay to the end so that way you can hear our thoughts on the pack as a whole for purchasing just these three tables. And this is all, like as I mentioned, this is one of the tables we picked up on our own and was not provided by the people at Zen. But even so, it definitely is a value cost when you're looking at that overall pack. The next table in the pack is Pinball Noir. Now, film noir is a film style that I've always been really partial to, especially after reading the X Factor comic run from Peter David right after the House of M event. And in one of the very first issues of that book, you have Jimmy Maddox basically explaining what film noir is, and does such a good job that it inspired me to actually watch some of the films that were from that style. Now, a lot of the films from that style are much older, a lot more black and white, but a lot of more modern versions of that storytelling. You still get the black and white aspect, but with using just little hints of color like you see on this table. And so with that attention to detail, I thought it was fantastic. Now, I was actually confused with the start of this table when I first saw the name, because I forgot that the name of a game that had come out previously was LA Noir. And so when I saw Pinball Noir, I thought that was going to be a table based on that game. Obviously, I'm wrong. Anyone that's played that game can see that these things do not match. But going into it completely blind, just seeing the name, that's what I was thinking. So if you're going into this and that's your expectation, you're definitely going to be very mistaken. Now, following the film noir style, the aesthetics they absolutely nailed it. They did a fantastic job just capturing the look and feel. The table itself has a great balance, just like Curse of the Mummy, where you have a balance between difficult shots and easier to hit shots. Getting some of the missions and doing some of the things on the table. I found this table to be a lot of fun, and between this and Curse of the Mummy, right there, it's worth the cost. Now, overall, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this table. It was a lot of fun, like I said, and even if you're only getting the 2 tables for that $15, already, in my opinion, it's worth it. Now, the final table is Sky Pirate's Treasure of the Clouds. Now, the table itself is centered around kind of a steampunk airship and, the battles that kind of happen with it. Not on any particular IP, but the aesthetics of the table are absolutely gorgeous. And, this entire pack is just beautiful. And, capturing that steampunk just aesthetic, they absolutely nailed. The ramps themselves and some of the pathways, I found to be a little cumbersome to hit intentionally. And there's quite a bit on the table that kind of distracts from it, but not so much that it's impossible. But the table itself, though, this one was, in my opinion, the worst one of the 3. And considering how much I love the other 2, there has to be a number 3. But unfortunately, compared to what we got from the first 2 tables, this one definitely fell short, in my opinion. Just the overall look and feel was great, but the enjoyment factor of the table kind of felt a little more tedious and just a little more lackluster. And it was a lot harder to get things to happen on the mode. But one thing I did really enjoy is there's a ship battle segment where if you trigger it, you basically are controlling 3 different cannons, and you have to guess where the enemy shooter is going to be appearing from, so that way you can hit them with the cannon. And so that little step away from the table itself was fun, but it was not enough to make the overall table good enough, in my opinion. Like I said, just the table as a whole, it fell short. My expectations by this point were too high based on the first 2 tables, and had I started with this one, I think that I probably would have enjoyed it more, just because I didn't have the other ones to compare it against. But it's not a bad table. There definitely are worse tables on Pinball Fx, but this one just sadly missed the mark. But again, when it comes to the overall value of the pack, basically the way I look at it is you're getting the first 2 tables for the bulk of the cost, and them alone, it's worth the $15. And so, keeping that as the focus, then this one's kind of tossed in as a freebie at that point. So, it still definitely maintains that overall value, but not enough that this one, it just doesn't shine enough to really justify the pack as a whole. If I needed all 3 of them, it would be a win before I would buy it. But thankfully the other 2 are strong enough alone that the pack is still worth it. But that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys all next time. Thanks for watching.